So you might be thinking, I have no way of making extra money. I've sold everything in my house. I've just about made that £250. How am I going to make an extra £500? So this is where we want to really get creative. What skills do you currently have in your hand that you can monetize? You may say, I don't have any skills, but is that true? Is that all that is true? Or are you just saying that you don't have skills and not giving yourself credit where credit is due? Welcome to Not Another Money Podcast. Why is it called Not Another Money Podcast, you may be wondering? It's because this is not your typical money show. Get ready for real money conversations and lessons, expert insights from some of our very special guests, and hear some really inspiring stories from everyday people. On this podcast, you're going to learn how to earn more, how to spend less, how to grow the difference, and most importantly, live your best financial life. Can you believe that we are about to enter the last third of 2024? It feels like just yesterday we were saying Happy New Year. We had all these amazing New Year's resolutions, all these things that we wanted to achieve in 2024. We had all these hopes, dreams, aspirations for what we were going to do this year. But here we are, entering into the last third of the year. And for many of us, those goals that we set at the start of the year are just on that paper, nowhere to be established. Now, in today's video, what I want to do is really tackle some of the goals that you can still achieve financially before the end of 2024, because it's not too late. Don't give up on yourself. Don't say to yourself, I'll start again in 2025. Today is a day that you can make movements towards achieving those 2024 financial goals. Don't write yourself off yet, and do not write this year off yet, because there is so much that we can still get done before the year is out. I did a vision board workshop at my church a couple of weeks ago with the ladies. It was a vision board check-in session. So we basically came together to look at the vision boards that we created for 2024 and took stock on where we were with the goals that we set at the start of the year versus where we are today. And it was really great to just have that time to look at what I wanted to achieve versus where I am and how much on track or off track I am from achieving said goals. It's so important to do that. Take that time to really be reflective on those goals that you set for yourself at the start of the year. For some of the ladies, it was their first time even revisiting that vision board that they created at the start of the year. So they came to that session all fired up and created their boards and created all their goals for the year, and they took it home and just put it somewhere, and it never saw the light of day again. And I think when it comes to setting goals and setting intentions, it's important to be intentional and specific about those goals that you set for yourself and create a plan as to how you're going to achieve it. And that's what we did in the second session, the session that we did a couple of weeks ago. We sat down and we came up with plans and worked out how we're going to make those things on the vision board a reality before the year is out. Because it's not just about saying, I want to achieve this and I want to achieve that, but actually, what kind of plan are you going to put in motion to make that a reality? What I really want to do in today's video is share with you 10 goals that I think every single person watching this video can achieve before the year is out. No matter where you are in your financial journey, whether you're just getting started, whether you're in a lot of debt, whether you have zero savings, it doesn't matter where you are in your financial journey. I think these are 10 goals that everybody can achieve before the year is out. So stick with me on this episode, and I'm going to take you through those 10 things that I think everyone can achieve before the year is out. And I think if you come up with a plan for how you're going to achieve each and every one of these goals, you're going to get to December 2024 and be blown away by how much you've been able to accomplish. When we're talking about the subject of money, it's so important to understand what's going on with our finances. And how are we going to be able to do that? We need to create that budget, create that conscious spending plan for your money. But what does that look like? How do you create a budget? I say create budgets all the time on this channel and on my platform. I've been talking about it for the longest of time on YouTube and also on my blog. But what does that actually look like? How do you create a budget? I think the most important thing to do is really know and understand your numbers. Know exactly how much is coming in on a daily, weekly and monthly basis and how much is going out, and make a plan for how much is going out before you spend a penny. So when it comes to September, for example, August pay is literally around the corner. What is that plan for August pay looking like? What we don't want to do is payday comes and then literally all these direct debits start going out and we start thinking, yes, I can finally buy those shoes that I put in my ASOS basket. What we really want to do is create a plan for that income before we spend a penny, because when you tell your money where to go at the start of the month, come the end of the month, you're not going to be sitting back wondering, where has all my money gone? Because you've been very much intentional and mindful about where that money is going to go. I personally like to budget using my Excel spreadsheet. I will link it in the description box below so you can grab the free template. I also have a paid version which is a lot better because it has a tracker on there and has a lot more tabs and expenses tracker on there. It has sinking fund tracker and a lot more on it, but you can get started with the simple free version just so that you can create a plan for that money money before you start spending any of it in September. When it comes to budgeting, don't look at budgets as being restrictive. Look at it as being freeing. It gives you that freedom to spend your money in a way that aligns with your financial goals and financial priorities. And then that vision that you've put on your vision board and those goals that you've set for 2024, this is how you're going to make them a reality, by creating that budget and by creating that conscious spending plan. It's one thing telling your money where to go and creating that budget. It's another thing intentionally sticking to that budget. And this is where the second point comes in, and this is to track your expenses. I know it sounds like such a tedious task and it just seems like such a long thing to do. Why do I want to keep writing down where my money is going? But it's so important to do this because it brings it to our consciousness. It makes us more aware of where we're spending our money and what we're doing with our money. And it gives us that time to give each purchase a second thought. Do I need to spend money right now on said item? Or is this just an impulsive purchase? And is this just a way for me to while away time? Is this something that just makes me feel a little bit better in the moment? Or is it something I really do want to buy and do need to buy? I think tracking our expenses helps us to be more aware of where our money is going, and it makes us make more conscious spending decisions. It also makes us aware of where our money is going on a monthly basis, because it's so funny. When I started on my financial journey and started paying down all my debt many years ago, and I started tracking my expenses, if you had told me I was spending £500 a month on groceries, I would have said, shut the back door, you are lying. I don't spend that much on groceries. Yet when I started tracking my expenses and adding it up, I quickly realized, oh crap, I actually do spend that much money on my groceries on a monthly basis. And it wasn't a weekly and fortnightly shops that I was doing to Tesco that was adding up to the £500. It was those ad hoc purchases to Tesco Express, to the corner shop, those little trips to the sweet shop, buying sweets and chocolates for the kids. All of those little expenses added up and it increased my grocery bill to an amount that I never even imagined. And it was because when I finally started tracking my expenses, I realized, okay, Tolu, you're spending a lot more money than you think here. When it comes to tracking your expenses as well, yes, it's important to track it as you're going, but what also helps is to look back at your expenses from the previous 3 months. So look back at your bank statements. On your online banking, you can quickly see where your money has been going. Look back at those expenses and retrospectively fill out your budget and see exactly how much you've been spending on your different budget categories. So in your budget categories, you have everything from your groceries to your home expenses to your utilities to your transport. You have all these different categories in your budget, and when you're tracking your expenses retrospectively for the previous 3 months, add all those expenses across those different budget categories, and then also create one for miscellaneous for those expenses that don't particularly fall into any budget category, and see how much you're spending in all of these areas. When you sit down and you put the numbers on paper, you'll be blown away by where your money is really going and how much you are really spending versus how much you think you're spending across your different budget categories. Another important money goal to set before the end of the year is to open a stocks and shares ISA account. A stocks and shares ISA is very different to your traditional savings account because it has a tax-free wrapper. So not only are you able to save money in that account, you're also able to invest money in that account. A stocks and shares ISA allows you to invest in things like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, exchange traded funds, and you can benefit from a range of different tax advantages. The beautiful thing about a stocks and shares ISA, and why I say everyone needs to open one before the end of the year, is because any money earned in this account, so any interest that you've made, any dividends that you've made, you don't pay any taxes on it. So you can invest in this account up to £20,000 per annum, and any additional money that is made on that money, you don't pay any taxes on it. Where else can you make money in the UK and not pay taxes on it? There's not many places. So it's something that I recommend everyone open before the end of the year. Even if there's nothing else on this list of things that I mentioned today that you aren't able to achieve before the end of 2024, this is one everyone can do. Open that account and start investing. With the stocks and shares ISA, you're not going to pay capital gains tax. You're not going to pay income tax. You're not even going to pay any tax on your withdrawals. You can manage your investment based on your risk appetite. Some people like to take bigger risks than others, and you can manage that according to what works for you in this investment account. But regardless of how you're going to invest that money, just create that account and start investing. You can start investing these days with as little as £1. I know apps like Trading 212, Free Trade, you only need as little as £1 to get started investing. So gone are the days where you need to have thousands and thousands of pounds before you start investing. I know when I first started on this financial education journey, I assumed investing was something that was for the elite in society or the extremely wealthy in society. I never realized until I started learning about it that it's accessible to everyone, but you don't know what you don't know. And once you do know, it's up to you to then do something with that education. Start investing today, and trust me, by this time next year, you're going to be so happy that you did when you start looking at your account and you see the returns that you're slowly getting on the money you've invested. And let's not even start talking about the power of compound interest, which will work in your favor in that investment account as your money grows. When it comes to investing, it's something that I'm still learning a lot about, but things like index funds, for example, are the easiest things to get started with, and they're the best investment strategies for people like myself who are novices in the area of investing and are also less risk averse because of how the investment is split. So with the index funds, for example, you're not just investing in individual companies, you are investing in a range of companies at the same time. So it really does limit your risk. Another money goal that I believe you can achieve before the end of 2024 is to build an emergency fund of £250. £1,000 is usually the recommended starter emergency fund, but I recognize that in this cost of living, it's hard just to stay afloat, let alone build an emergency fund. But I think start small, set that saving goal of £250 by the end of the year, and then you can build on it in 2025. What it does when you start that small emergency fund is it gives you that proof of concept, and then it gives you something to work with and build upon. What I want us to do is really address our mindset when it comes to our ability to save. Yes, I know, like I said, it is a tough economic time. Yes, we know inflation has come down, but the ramifications of inflation being so high over the last few years are still being felt. I mean, food costs going up by 10% last year and salaries not going up at the same rate means that our money is having to work a lot harder. So I totally get it and I totally appreciate it. But I really believe that life is 10% what happens to us and 90% how we respond to it. So when we start thinking about, okay, this is my financial situation, what am I going to do about it? We start thinking of ideas and strategies and ways to overcome our situation. But when we bury our heads in the sand and we just accept this as our lot in life, that's where you're unable to find a solution to your situation. But I think when we start looking at our situation head on and say, okay, this is where I am, what am I going to do about it? What can I do about it? You'll be surprised at the ideas that start coming to mind and the solutions you're able to start coming up with. So for example, when I talk about building this £250 emergency fund, how are you going to do that right now in your current financial situation? You've created that budget, you've tracked your expenses, and there's nothing to work with. You're barely making ends meet and you're barely able to cover your bills. How are you going to find this extra money to build an emergency fund? Now we're going to have to look at where we can make sacrifices. Look at your existing budget, look at where your money's going right now, and look at how you can reduce those expenses in some way. You might be saying, Tolu, my budget is already very tight. I can totally relate because my budget is quite tight too. But what can you do about that budget to make room? If today was your last payday, what would you do sacrificially to ensure you're able to stay afloat? What expense could you cut? I'm talking about creating a bare bones budget in this instance. So bare bones budgets essentially covers your four walls: your shelter, your food, your travel, and your utilities. Most things outside of that are additional costs, which if worse came to worse, you could avoid paying those costs. So once you've created that bare bones budget, from that extra money, how much of it could you put towards that emergency fund? If you've gone through your budget, you're already living on a bare bones budget. There's nothing else you can do. Okay, so what can we do to get extra income in order to build that starter emergency fund fast? Look around your house. You'll be surprised at how much clutter you have in that house that you can turn to cash. It's like that saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And while you may be looking around your home thinking, I don't have anything of value here that I can sell, you will be surprised at what people would buy from you. You'll be surprised at what you're looking at as rubbish. Somebody else will place a pound value on it. Don't assume you don't have anything of value in your home. Look at your wardrobe, look in your cupboards, look in your garage, look in your storage. What things do you have in your house that you're not using or that you use infrequently that you can possibly sell in order to make money? Look around your home. What kind of things can you do in order to reduce those expenses, in order to use that money to quickly build that starter emergency fund? I think once you start selling things around your home and making that extra money, you're going to realize that, wow, I can make the money I need to build this starter emergency fund. And once you start on that journey, you get that first £50. It's going to give you that motivation you need to get the second £50, to get the third £50. And before you know it, you're on that trajectory to build that £250 emergency fund. And once you're there, the sky literally is the limit. Once you've got that first 250, you're going to really want to work hard in order to get that second 250 to make it £500 and keep building from there until you get to £1,000. So whilst you've set yourself that goal of building £250 emergency fund by the end of the year, you might surprise yourself that within the next 2-3 months, you're able to do that £250. And then by the end of the year, you're able to double it. Okay, So now we've spoken about building that £250 emergency fund. I think another money goal that we want to try and achieve is to make extra money. I kind of touched on that already when I was speaking about building that starter emergency fund. When you've looked at your budget and you've made all the cutbacks necessary in order to build that emergency fund, you still can't find any wiggle room in it. So you're going to do what you can to make extra money to build that emergency fund. But once you've made all that extra money and you've built that emergency fund, you want to also make that extra £500 that you can put towards that investment account that we spoke about earlier. £500 you can put into that stocks and shares ISA, or you can add it to that £250 that you have saved for your starter emergency fund to make it £750. It's up to you. Personal finance is personal, so do what works for you. But I think the main challenge here is to see how you can reduce your expenses to build that emergency fund, and then see how you can make extra money to put towards your other financial goals. So you might be thinking, I have no way of making extra money. I've sold everything in my house. I've just about made that £250. How am I going to make an extra £500? So this is where we want to really get creative. What skills do you currently have in your hand that you can monetize? You may say, I don't have any skills, but is that true? Is that all that is true? Or are you just saying that you don't have skills and not giving yourself credit where credit is due? Are you able to babysit? Are you great at cooking and can do meal prep for people? Are you great at doing hair and do hairdressing for people? I remember years ago when I started my platform actually, and I was side hustling, I started doing hair. So I had a page called the Lux Crochet Braids, and I was doing crochet braids for friends, family, and then people that found me on Instagram. And it was doing really well. I stopped it after a while because, to be honest, I don't enjoy doing hair, but it was a skill in my hand that I had at the time that I knew that I could monetize. And I did, and I was able to make a lot of money doing people's hair while I was on maternity leave at the time with my third son. So what skills do you have in your hand? What thing are you good at that somebody else will pay you for? In your day job, are you an accountant? Could you potentially do bookkeeping for small business owners in your local area? Are you great at social media? You spend so much time on Instagram anyway, just looking at people's pages and creating content for the fun of it on your own account. Could you do it for a local business in your area? Could you do it for another content creator? So all of these different skills that you have, sit down and make note of it. Take stock of everything that you are able to do. You'll be so surprised when you sit down and do this activity at how much you're able to do and how many skills you have that you're not giving yourself credit for, or you're not really taking account of. If you sit down and write it down, what things am I good at? What things am I able to do? What things come naturally to me? What skills do I use in my day job that I can use and transfer to a side hustle? When you start asking yourself these questions and start thinking out loud and start writing on paper, you're going to be so surprised at all the ideas that start coming to you, and you start to realize and appreciate the skills that you do have, the things of value that you do have, that somebody else will be more than willing to pay you for. Once you've done this exercise and you've written down all your skills, now it's time to get to work. Start putting yourself out there. Start cold calling people. Cold calling is something that's a dying breed, which makes it so much easier for you to cut through. Call through businesses in your local area and offer them your services, whatever those services look like. Are you great at cleaning? Like, you love to clean. You're always cleaning your house, even though your house is spotless. I'm definitely not that person. But if you are that person that loves to clean and your house is always spotless, offer your cleaning services to people in your area, houses on your street. There's mums on your street that don't like cleaning, that don't clean as well as you, and will be happy to pay you for it. Look at the skills that you have right now and see how you can monetize those on the side so that you can build that side hustle income of £500 by the end of the year. This money goal you may think seems insignificant, but actually if you take it and apply it, it can be transformational to your personal finances. And this is to read a book about money. Read a personal finance book that you are going to take financial education from, glean from, and apply to your money. So one book that I read when I first started my personal finance journey online was The Richest Man in Babylon. And that was the book where I learned the concept of paying yourself first from. So in that book, it talks about when you have 10 coins, pay yourself one before you pay anybody else. And when I read that concept, as simple as it may sound now when I'm explaining it, it was revolutionary for me, because up until that point, I was not paying myself first. Everybody else was enjoying the fruits of my labor. I wasn't. When I was able to take that concept and apply it to my finances, I was able to start investing on a monthly basis. Paying yourself first is a concept that I've taken and run with, and I'm always telling everybody about. That's just one concept from one book that I've read on money. I've read so many over the years and learned a lot from them. But if you just take one book and apply one principle, from that book to your personal finances. This time next year, you're going to be so glad that you read and applied what you learned in that book. A few recommendations that I would give off the top of my head that you can go and check out: Your Money or Your Life by Vicky Robin. I talk about this book a lot online because I just think it's such a great book, and it was very transformational for me on my financial journey because it really put into perspective for me the importance of my life versus my pursuit of money. And I think up until that point, I was very much prioritizing money as opposed to prioritizing living my best life. When I read that book, I was able to reshift my focus and priorities and realize that money is just a tool for me to live the life I want, and I shouldn't make it my idol or make it my main focus in my life. Your Money or Your Life, I can't recommend it enough. A great book. A recent one that I would add to my list that I'm currently reading, I still haven't finished it, but just in a few chapters that I've read already, I really think it's a great book that everyone should read and you can learn a lot from, and that is Financial Joy by Ken and Mary at The Humble Penny. Some of you may already be familiar with them, but it's a book that they released just earlier this year, and I love the concept of financial joy that they discussed in the book because it's something that I'm strongly pursuing in my life. And that is, again, kind of similar to the thought process of Your Money or Life, in terms of money being a tool and using it to design a life of financial joy, and not just make the pursuit of money your main focus, because actually there's a lot of people that are very wealthy but they're not happy, whereas there's people that have enough and they are happy and they're content, and that's because they understand the importance and value of living their best life as opposed to just caring about how much money they earn without necessarily having a life that they want to live with that money. So those are just a couple of books that I can recommend. I also have a reading list on my website where I share all the money books that I've read so far since like 2018, so you can check them out and pick the ones that tickle your fancy. I've also got a few book reviews on those books on my website. So there's really no excuse, guys. In 2024, before the year is out, take one personal finance book and read it, and take one lesson at least from that book and apply it to your personal finances. And by the end of the year, you're going to see a big change in your money situation and in your attitude and relationship with money. Going on from reading a personal finance book, I think also listen to a personal finance podcast or YouTube video. Obviously, you're here listening to Not Another Money podcast, so that is great. Definitely keep tuning in. But also there's so many other amazing personal finance podcasts that you can listen to. Not quite the same as Not Another Money podcast, but they still have their place and they still have the value that they bring. So I think just in general, just be a learner, be open to learning about financial education, improving your financial literacy, because this is going to go a long way in helping you to achieve your goals for 2024 and beyond. If you're currently in debt and you're only making minimum payments, and that's just what you've been doing since you acquired that debt, set yourself a goal that by the end of 2024, on at least one of those debts, the smallest one is what I would go for, but at least one, no matter how many you have, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 20 different debts that you need to pay that are outstanding, challenge yourself to make overpayments on at least one of them consistently between now and the end of the year. So every month, if the minimum payment is £30, challenge yourself to make an overpayment of £50 every single month, so that what you're doing is you are paying down that principal debt a lot faster, and as a result you are paying less interest on that debt. The danger of only making minimum payments is that what you'll find is the balance just isn't really going down, because a lot of the payments that you're making are just about covering interest, but the principal amount is still there and not really moving. So you want to be able to mitigate that by making those overpayments. Start with the smallest debt and overpay that, and you'll be surprised that by this time next year, that smallest debt is probably fully paid off. If you're one of those people that when it comes to saving and investing or even paying off debt, you are doing it all manually on a monthly basis, I think that makes it difficult to be consistent and get any kind of routine in place. You want to systemize and automate things as much as possible. So automate your savings, automate paying off debt, automate your bills, so that you simplify your finances as much as possible, and you remove yourself from the equation as well, because I think we deceive ourselves into thinking that we are more strong-willed than we are, and it's so easy for temptation to get the better of us. You put £200 into a saving account this month, and next month you're going to do the same, but then your friend tells you about this trip to Paris for the weekend that she wants you to go on with her, and then all of a sudden that £200 that you were planning to save, you don't save it. You're like, okay, I'll do it again next month. And that keeps happening. Every month, something else pops up that takes your money, and then you're not able to get to that financial goal that you set yourself. Take yourself out of that equation so that on payday, when you get paid, that £200 is automatically sent to your savings account. So you're out of that process. You don't take it. It just goes automatically. And when it comes to the savings account that is going to, don't put it in a savings account that you can easily access. So you just, transfer the money automatically on the first, and on the second, you just transfer it back out into your current account. You don't want to do that. You want to send it to an account that you don't have online access to, so that it makes it difficult for you to withdraw the money. You have to actually contact the bank or go inside the bank in order to get that money out. Create some friction on that side of things so that you're less likely to take the money out and put it towards another use. Automation as much as you can, and make it as difficult as you can for you to access those funds. Another money goal that you really want to achieve before the end of the year is to be a financial blessing to somebody else. I believe it's more blessed to give than it is to receive. Being a blessing financially to someone else, you're going to reap the rewards of you sowing that seed into somebody else's life. And not only that, you are just going to feel good for being able to do that. I think we are supposed to be a blessing to one another, and we are supposed to give. And it's not just about us and how much we can get and how great we can make our lives. I think, what's the point of being successful and being able to achieve great things if you're not able to give back? If you're not a blessing to your neighbor from what you have, it's important to give back, to give to others, especially if you're a parent and you have children. I think it's good to model that kind of behavior for them so that they recognize the importance of giving too, and it becomes second nature to them as well, so that we don't grow to just be selfish beings, all consumed in ourselves and our lives, but actually we look out for others as well as ourselves. So there we have it. Those are 10 money goals that you can achieve before the end of 2024. Every single person listening to the sound of my voice right now, you can achieve that money goal before the year is out. Will it be easy? Of course it's not going to be easy. Life is not easy. Let me not lie. Things are hard, things are challenging, but are we going to rise to the challenge, or are we going to fold and just, roll up into a corner and just accept defeat? No, we're going to go hard. We're going to apply ourselves. We're going to push ourselves outside our comfort zones. We're going to knock on doors so that doors can be opened for us. And we are going to achieve these financial goals before the end of the year. And I think as we start ticking things off of that list, as you start creating that budget, you start tracking your expenses, you open that stocks and shares ISA account, you start to grow in confidence financially. You start to realize that you're taking control of your finances. Life isn't just happening to you. Your money isn't just slipping through your fingers. You're being so intentional about where it's going and what you're doing with it. You're being financially responsible. Your confidence is going to grow. Your posture is going to grow. You're going to feel happier about your personal finances because you have things under control. And yeah, by the end of the year, you're going to be blown away by the strides that you've been able to take in your personal finances and all you've been able to accomplish. I hope now you are encouraged, you are motivated, and you are ready to take on the last few months of 2024 and achieve some amazing financial goals. Let me know in the comments section below which of these goals you're going to achieve before the end of the year. Let me know which ones you're going to start with. If you're listening to this on Spotify or any other podcast streaming platform, please do give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, leave a review so that I know you're watching and I know that you've enjoyed the episode. That is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Not Another Money podcast, and I will speak to you on the next episode. Thanks for listening. Bye.